ETFs are one of the best tools available to everyday investors, genuinely, but there are very common mistakes people make with them. They quietly eat into your returns for years. In this video, I'm walking you through 7 of those mistakes, things like hidden fees you've probably never heard of, performance charts that are designed to mislead you, and one specific type of ETF that looks like it multiplies your gains, but is mathematically engineered to destroy your money during normal market conditions. I'm saving that last one for the end. Once you understand how it actually works, you'll wonder why anyone recommends it without a serious warning attached. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly what to avoid, and more importantly, why these mistakes happen in the first place. Quick disclaimer, this is not financial advice. Always do your own research before making any financial investment decisions. Let's get into it.
Mistake number 1, assuming every ETF gives you the same level of diversification. Here's the truth. ETFs are not all equally diversified. They exist on a spectrum, from extremely broad to very narrow, and most investors don't check where theirs sits before buying. On one end of that spectrum, you have something like VTI, a total U.S. market ETF holding over 3,500 companies across every major sector of the economy. If one industry has a terrible year, the other sectors absorb it. That's genuine diversification, working exactly as intended. On the other end, you have highly concentrated ETFs, sector funds, thematic funds, single country funds that might hold 25 to 40 stocks in one very specific corner of the market. If that corner suffers, there's nothing else inside the fund to cushion it. Here's a side-by-side within the same sector to show how big the gap can be. 2 healthcare ETFs, XLV and VHT. Same sector, similar pitch. XLV holds around 65 companies. VHT holds over 400, spread across large, mid, and small healthcare businesses. Same category on paper, very different exposure in reality. Neither is the wrong choice. It depends entirely on what you're trying to do. A focused sector bet makes sense for some strategies, a broad fund makes sense for others. But picking without knowing, that's always the wrong move. Before you invest in any ETF, open the fact sheet, check how many companies it holds, check sector concentration, 3 minutes of reading before you commit.
Mistake number 2, believing ETFs are safe because they hold many companies. The dangerous logic goes, this ETF holds hundreds of companies, I must be protected. You're not protected from what matters most, the entire market declining at once. During the 2008 financial crisis, the S&P 500 fell over 50% from peak to trough. In 2022, the Nasdaq dropped more than 33%. If you had $10,000 in a broad market ETF before either of those periods, your account showed $5,000 or $6,700 on paper. Most people cannot sit with that calmly. That's where the real damage happens. Investors who panic and sell during a 30 to 40% decline lock in that loss permanently. The market recovers, and historically it always has, but they're sitting on the sidelines waiting for a moment that's already passed. ETFs are genuinely safer than picking individual stocks, but safer is not the same as immune. Understand the difference before you invest, not after you're watching your balance drop.
Mistake number 3 is ignoring the full cost of owning an ETF. Most investors know about expense ratios, but there's a second cost that almost nobody thinks about, and it adds up every time you trade. On expense ratios first, passive ETFs that track an index typically charge between 0.03% and 0.20% per year. Actively managed ETFs often go above 1%. That sounds like a small gap, but on a $10,000 investment over 30 years, the compounding difference between those two fee levels can exceed $60,000, not from bad investments, just from fees. Now the cost almost nobody talks about, the bid-ask spread. Every ETF has a bid price, what buyers will pay, and an ask price, what sellers want. When you trade, you absorb the difference. For large, liquid ETFs tracking the S&P 500, that spread is tiny, but for niche or thinly traded ETFs, the spread can be meaningfully wider. Trade frequently in those, and the cumulative drag becomes real. Before you commit to any ETF, check the expense ratio and check the bid-ask spread. Both compound silently.
Mistake number 4, ignoring tracking error. When you invest in a passive ETF, you're paying for it to mirror an index as closely as possible, but not every ETF does this equally well. The difference between how an ETF actually performs versus how its benchmark index performed is called the tracking error.
A small gap is expected and normal. A large gap means the fund is consistently underperforming the very index it's supposed to follow, even when the index does well. Why does it happen? Management fees eat into returns. Rebalancing takes time. Some stocks inside the index are harder to trade quickly, especially in smaller markets. All of these create drift. The practical result, two ETFs can claim to track the same index, charge similar fees, and still deliver meaningfully different real-world returns because one tracks tightly and the other doesn't. So when comparing similar ETFs, don't stop at the expense ratio. Look at tracking error too. A fund with a slightly higher fee but tighter tracking can easily outperform a cheaper but sloppy alternative in practice. Tracking error data is available on any ETF provider's website or financial research platform. One extra number, but it tells you whether the fund is actually doing the job you hired it to do.
Mistake number 5, choosing ETFs based on past performance. This trap works because your brain treats recent results as more predictive of the future than they actually are. A fund that tripled last year feels like it'll do it again. That instinct is almost always wrong. Let me show you exactly how expensive it can be. ARK Innovation ETF, ARKK, returned over 150% in 2020. It became one of the most talked about funds in the world. Money flooded in. Analysts called Cathie Wood the next great investor. Then, from a peak of around $159 in February 2021, ARK fell to roughly $35 by May 2022. That's a loss of more than 75% for investors who bought near the top, most of whom were drawn in by that extraordinary 2020 chart. This is not an isolated story. It's how market cycles work. By the time a fund looks irresistible on a chart, much of the gain is already priced in, and the conditions that drove those returns are often already reversing. Evaluate strategy, holdings, fees, and whether the fund's timeline matches yours. Performance charts tell you about the past. Your money needs to work in the future.
Mistake number 6, trying to time the market instead of committing to a clear strategy. This quietly destroys more wealth than fees, tracking error, and concentration risk combined. And it never feels like a mistake while it's happening. It looks like this. Markets rise, you hesitate, worried you're buying at the top. Markets fall, fear takes over, you sell, telling yourself you'll buy back once things calm down. By the time things feel calm, prices have already recovered. You've bought at the top because of FOMO and sold at the bottom because of panic, both at exactly the wrong time. Here's the data that should permanently change how you think about this. Missing just the 10 best trading days of the S&P 500 over the past 20 years cuts your total return by roughly half, 10 days out of more than 7,000. And those 10 best days almost always cluster during the most frightening, most volatile market periods, exactly when most investors are selling. The solution? Decide your strategy before volatility hits and commit to it. Dollar cost averaging, investing a fixed amount on a regular schedule, regardless of market conditions, removes emotion from the equation. Discipline beats prediction every single time. Mistake number 7, and the one I've been building toward since the start, putting money into leveraged ETFs without understanding what they actually do. Leveraged ETFs are designed to multiply an index's daily returns, typically 2 or 3 times. On paper, that sounds extraordinary. Triple the upside. Who wouldn't want that? Here's what the marketing doesn't tell you. Leveraged ETFs reset their leverage every single day. That daily reset creates a compounding effect called volatility decay, and it works powerfully against you in volatile or sideways markets. Simple example, an index rises 10% one day, then falls 10% the next, ending roughly where it started, a small net loss. A 2 times leveraged ETF tracking that index goes up 20% one day, then down 20% the next. But because each percentage applies to a different starting value, the leveraged ETF suffers a significantly larger loss than the index from the exact same market moves. In choppy sideways markets, even ones that aren't clearly going anywhere, leveraged ETFs can slowly bleed value through this mechanism alone. That's volatility decay, and it doesn't stop.
These products exist for short-term traders who understand the mechanism precisely and monitor positions actively. For long-term investors, especially anyone just starting out, they carry far more risk than the return multiplier suggests. Understand the tool before you use it.
And that's the 7. Every single mistake in this video has one thing in common. None of them are about bad luck. They're all about information, knowing what you own, what it costs, how it actually behaves, and what your own emotional reactions will do to a perfectly good strategy. You now have that information. That puts you ahead of most people investing in ETFs right now. If this was useful, drop a comment. I read every single one, and they directly shape what I cover next. And if you want more videos like this, plain language, no hype investing content, hit subscribe. One video a week, every week. See you in the next one.